We take this British, this veneer of British control out, or this middle layer of British control out of Greater India, it goes back to conflict real quick.
Okay.
Right? So the places where we look at these ethnic mixings, etc., there were very unique circumstances at their beginning. And I wrote about this here recently. Like, we have blacks in America that are Americans. They've been here with us since the beginning. We don't always get along, but more of us get along than not. But it doesn't matter. We built this country together. We've got Spaniards that have been here, Spanish-speaking peoples that have been here since before even we out here in the West got here. So it's a more complicated thing. But the difference is that those peoples, those mixing of peoples, that mixing happened at the beginning.
Yep. And there's another point that Martin Armstrong makes, is that in the US, everybody had to learn English to get on. They had to learn English.
Well, that is correct. That is true. And also, you weren't going to get a job. You weren't going to get hired. You weren't going to, unless you became English. But again, the unique, even in America, right? When we talk about multi-ethnic societies, every single one of those multi-ethnic societies began that way. They didn't become that way later.
Okay.
Right. And specifically, they became that way with the demographic ethnic mix that they had, not with other peoples from other ethnic groups that had fuck all to do with it and were never there to begin with.
Okay.
Right.
So Ian, taking it personal level, right? So I wasn't born here. Mm-hmm. I'm married to a Scottish woman, beautiful, wonderful Scottish woman. My brother wasn't born here either, my older brother. He's married to an Argentinian Jewish woman. Right? They're settled here. We've both got kids here. Then when I go to London and I'm working with African Caribbeans and Pakistanis and Indians who've been here since the 60s and 70s. And to me, there is a difference in how they are to the recent arrivals, those that came since Blair was in power, where there was a sudden uptick in immigration. So then what would you say to me?
No, it's the question, right? My daughter's mother is from the Philippines. She didn't get here till she was eight years old. Now her stepfather, right, was in the Navy. And, the Philippines were U.S., been under our control for a couple hundred years. So that's a little bit different. I mean, that's kind of like where you come from, Pakistan. Pakistan is part of Greater India, and that was British. So there are old roots, right, that allow for some of this admixing. Your people have been British peoples for at least 2 centuries, probably longer. So it is not, and this is what they're counting on, right? Where's all this language? Where do you make the clean line? Well, there are no clean lines, because there are people that don't even come from those, populations and groupings that probably would be very, very good citizens and become very good peoples. I'll give you an example. I'd never really understood why peoples came here from China, came here from Spanish-speaking countries, German-speaking countries, Italian-speaking, whatever, and they never spoke those languages in the home. To me, I've been linguistically oriented my whole life, right? I love foreign languages, etc. I never really understood till recently why they didn't teach their children that language. To something you just said that Armstrong said. It's because they wanted to force their children, so I'm going to give you this. We used to think that all languages use the same neural structures in the brain. They don't. Different languages develop different now they use different regions and, the same linguistic regions, etc. But different languages quite literally differently wire the brain. So if your native language is something other than the language of that major culture and people, you fundamentally think different. You process sensorial input internally and externally very differently.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so, okay, well, how similar can we be if the physics, which doesn't change, by the way, because it's laid down by the time you're about 3.5 years old. So how much like us can you be? Now, there's a fundamental difference for you. You grew up in Pakistan. English is the second language. Mm. English is the language taught in school.
And my parents were fluent in English.
It's the lingua franca, to not use the French term, but it's the best term, right? So, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, this is unfortunately, though, the threat vector that they're now using with the Indians and the Pakistanis. They are native English-speaking peoples. Sometimes some of them going back 5, 6, 7, 8 generations, and they're now flooding us with these people with this very argument. Well, these are English peoples. These are the English peoples. Their native language or their dominant language, their structures. They're us. Well, that might have been true of the people, and I quite frankly think before maybe the 70s. I don't know, and maybe you can't do a hard cutoff there. But if we don't I wrote a piece on this here, about the United States, etc. But I don't have a clean answer for you. I think what's going to wind up being forced to is at some point you're either with us or you're against us. Unfortunately, I think we are being forced into a situation where the only way through, and I wrote a piece on this, right? A return to tribalism, modern tribalism. We're being forced to a position where either we just allow ourselves to be eradicated or we stand. And well, how do you stand? And again, because of all these complex arguments, they knew exactly what they were doing with all of this. They knew, because they knew that if it ever got to blood, how the hell would we make the determination of who's, like, I've served with incredible black guys. I've served with a lot of incredible, Spanish speaking guys, Asian guys, some Jews even, right? I'm going to tell you something honestly. I haven't served with any Pakistani or Indian guys, except for one, and he was ludicrously high net worth and, born and raised here in the United States. Right? So, he was an outlier of an outlier. Right? So, there is no, chart or table or color coding. What's going to happen?
We're not going to revive the pencil test.
It's not going to work.
They had in South Africa. You and I would both fail with the pencil test.
It's not going to work. So the issue is this: we are going to have to tribe up, ethnic tribe up, and we're going to have to work out our own, the issues within our own tribes, and then tribes are going to have to form alliances. Unfortunately, and each tribe, each ethnic group, each ethnic tribe is going to have to police their own, because you sure as fuck don't want me policing your people. And I sure as fuck don't want you policing my people. And that's no disrespect to you or me, right? Yep. But I wouldn't know where to begin is what I'm getting at. I wouldn't know where to make the distinction of, are you a good Englishman or not? Right? I wouldn't know. Same thing for us. How would you know what kind of, if you're having to deal with some white people, how would you know what kind of an Englishman we are? Right?
Oh, bloody hell.
So we're going to have to tribe up. And then we're going to have to form tribal alliances. Again, I've written on this, I think, last week. Mm-hmm. Okay, now I oriented in America because that's where I was born and raised, and mostly. And it's the locus and center of all this. And we are a racially mixed country from all the way back in the 1500s. Like the first Japanese showed up here in the 1500s, late 1500s. The first Chinese in the late 1500s. The first Filipinos arrived here in the late 1500s. The Spanish set up the first settlement here in the 1500s. The French, the American, the English, the Scots, the Welsh, so we've had, and the blacks, the first blacks arrived here, I think, in 1603. And the first black guy to actually show up in this country was a former black slave freeman who was a conquistador. Right? So we don't need to go with this lie of, the Scots were black. Like these things, they're putting these videos out that, they were black first, but they had blue eyes. It's like, get the fuck out of here, right? Literally, they're putting these videos out with DNA evidence. You look at the studies, though. If you look at the actual DNA studies, if they reference them, they're not real studies. They're crap studies.
It's nonsense, absolutely nonsense that the road to African.
Correct. So the point is that, to your question, and this is a great question, okay? We are going to have to tribe back up. Unfortunately, we have been forced to it. And then we're going to have to form, and this isn't easy, we're going to have to police our own tribes, and we're going to have to form tribal alliances, and we're going to have to work all that out rather quickly.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Now, here's the beautiful thing. Two things. One, then we don't go to ethnic genocide and slaughter. And people really need to understand, white people are way better at that than anybody else.
They have a lot more practice.
Well, that's not necessarily true. Brown people have been killing a lot of brown people for a long time, too. And yellow people and black people are still slaughtering each other in huge numbers, right? It's just that when white people come together, Europeans will just slaughter away. Oh, by the way, we also do most of the innovations and technologies and warfare and all that other stuff, right? So we don't want to go to ethnic slaughter. It would end us all, quite honestly. And it would put even if it didn't end us all, it would put an evil stain on us that we would never recover from. Yep. Right? Everything that we've been doing as a civilization, as a civilized people, and I don't mean the pussy bullshit civilized, but I mean everything we've been doing to try and be a civilized people has been trying to stop that. So we can't go hard ethno-nationalist, ethnic slaughter. And oh, by the way, there's a whole lot of different white ethnicities. Right? So it's not as simple as white people. White people have been killing white people. How many people, how many Germans and French and Spaniards and Italians did my English and Scottish peoples kill over the last 500 years.
Yep. No, I get
Or
it.
Hungarians or Poles or okay, so that's one part. We can't destroy ourselves that way as the people. The other thing is that if we do get through this, where we tribe back up, we police our own tribes, and then we form tribal alliances amongst us, we as a people, collective people, in our nations, in our countries, in our civilization will actually then become much stronger for it. Why? Because we will have figured out how to inoculate ourselves from all this communist, Marxist, National Socialist arguments around race.
Yep. EM, we're going to have to finish up. Now, what we can do in the meantime, right, is notaxforwar.com in the UK. It's a criminal offence to pay any tax because it violates the International Criminal Court Act and the Terrorism Act, and you can find out by going to No Tax for War. I'll have all the links for you in the description below. Anything else you want to say?
No, I got on a soapbox and I pontificated away.
It's always great. It's always great.
I do not want, the thing that we cannot allow is for our young men to be led to a slaughter again. We cannot.
No.
Even if it means we have to fight our own, in our own tribes, on this land, on these lands, even if it means we have to fight our own, even if it means we have to fight our own governments, that is a tiny, tiny amount of violence compared to what they want us to do to slaughter off our young men.
Yeah, we do not want that. We do not want it. We want peace. We want unity. We want a world where
I don't know about peace. Peace is boring, but unity would be nice.
Well, okay, but you're a former veteran, and you like to keep yourself busy that way, right? But unity and a world where human beings honor human beings. That's my stand.
Minimize war. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Please share, comment, everything else like that.